Have an intro. Start the meeting, so we will start as soon as the intro finishes playing.
Good afternoon and welcome to the April 12th, 2021 Historic Zoning Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order. So, commissioners, please respond when I call your name if you're present. Kelly Baker, Susan Besser, Brian Laster, Nick Mann, I believe is absent, Lisa Marquardt,
Present.
Mary Pierce is absent, Ken Scalf,
Present.
Kathy Worthington,
Present.
and Jim Roberts present. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-75, a resolution declaring that the Historic Zoning Commission shall meet on April 12, 2021 and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Is there such a motion?
So moved. This is Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Second, this is Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. Then please respond when I call your name. Kelly Baker,
Aye.
Susan Besser,
Aye.
Brian Laster,
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt,
Aye.
Ken Scalf,
Aye.
Kathy Worthington,
Aye.
and Jim Roberts. Aye. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the City of Franklin officials, staff, and citizens, the Historic Zoning Commission will restrict physical access in the meeting to a small number of staff members due to the current limitations on public gatherings. Accommodations have been made to ensure that the public will still be able to participate in the meeting. The public may participate in the following ways: watch the meeting on Franklin TV or the City of Franklin website. Watch the live stream through the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts. Call in to the meeting at 312-626-6799, meeting ID 954-4545-8620, passcode 488928. Callers will be unmuted and given the opportunity to comment during the meeting at specific times. Limited viewing will be available in the lobby of City Hall for up to 10 persons, but in-person comment in the boardroom will not be available. The public may email comments to planningintake@franklintn.gov to be provided in full to the commission and included in the minutes, but not read aloud in their entirety during the meeting. Email comments will be accepted until noon on the day of the meeting. Now, before we go into the minutes, I believe Ken Moore has something he would like to say. Mayor Moore.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to interject myself here just for a few moments. And thank you for the Historic Zoning Commission for all the great work you do. And I know that it's not easy, and I know that you put in a lot of time. So each and every one of you, I look at you and just so appreciate the great work that you're doing. And if I look at everybody, I think I've made most of these appointments. So it makes me proud, particularly to carry the message I'm carrying tonight, and also with some reluctance, because this is Kelly Baker's last night. And I do remember a number of years ago, Kelly came and visited with me in my office and said, I want to get involved. And we had a long conversation. I made a lot of suggestions, and an opening came up on historic zoning, and her name was in the list. And we interviewed a whole bunch of candidates, and Kelly came out on top. And certainly the reason, her work justifies the fact that I think we picked a great person to be on this Board of Zoning Appeals, Historic Zoning Board. So, Kelly, I'm forever thankful that for you having served, and I've heard the rumor you will be back. So we look forward to the opportunity to interact again and you to serve the city again at some time in the future. But you've done an outstanding job, and thank you for what you've done. And you've left your thumbprint on Franklin, and you know where it is. So come back. So thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor Moore. I just echo what Mayor Moore said too, Kelly. You've been a great asset to this commission, and we will miss you. And you still have the opportunity, though, to dial in if you'd like from time to time, assuming we're still on Zoom, which may not be the case going forward. But we're hopefully we're close to the end of that. But she did dial in, Mayor Moore, one time from Hawaii and participated in the meeting. So that was a real trooper for us. So Kelly, thank you.
Yeah,
Kelly,
we'll miss you, Kelly. And I just want to say that your insights to me have always sounded just really well balanced and well thought out. And when you speak, I pay attention.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed serving on this commission, not only as an opportunity to serve our city, and I appreciate Dr. Moore for putting that faith in me, but also I've learned so much from you guys, and having sat on many different boards and commissions in my lifetime, this is truly the most well-functioning and respectful and thoughtful group of folks that I've ever served with. And not only have I learned about historic preservation from you guys, but I've learned a lot about how to be a public servant. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
And Kelly, it's been a pleasure. You are one of the most enthusiastic people I know, and that is a great thing. I have very much enjoyed working with you and learning from you. I remember when you first started, we asked folks who were interested in joining us for a long multi-day mobile workshop. You jumped right in. It was the hottest part of the year, and you were a champ, and you were telling me afterward how much you loved it. You went back and visited places so you can learn more about them that we'd been to. And I just remember admiring and respecting how dedicated you have been. And I know that you'll continue to do that from afar, wherever you go. And hopefully we'll get you back so we can continue to have someone as dedicated and as passionate as you here in our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Our item now is to entertain a motion to approve the March 8th, 2021 minutes, which were distributed with our packets. So is there such a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Brian. So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second to that?
Second, this is Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. You can speak a lot if you'd like to do it tonight. Okay, are there any additions to these? If not, please respond when I call your name. Kelly Baker?
Aye.
Susan Besser?
Aye.
Brian Laster?
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt?
Aye.
Ken Scalf?
Aye.
Kathy Worthington?
Aye.
And Jim Roberts, aye. Thank you. Okay, are there any announcements, Amanda, Kelly? I don't know, is Kelly Dannenfelder on here?
Yes, she is. She was able to join us. So yes, I do have a few announcements, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your time. I did want to note that we have an April 19th Design Review Committee meeting. That takes place a week from today at 4 o'clock. But I'd also like to invite you to a special DRC site visit the same day. That'll be at 3 o'clock, and it will be at a property on Lewisburg Avenue. I'll have the details for you tomorrow. I can't remember the address offhand, but it is a property that we've had at Design Review Committee previously. And I asked the applicant if they'd be interested in the site visit because that is something that was brought up by the chair previously as something that may be beneficial to this particular applicant. So we will go ahead and get that in the paper. Thank you so much for considering attending that. We also have a special Design Review Committee meeting scheduled for the 26th of April, which is 2 weeks from today. And that's specific to the ongoing update to the Historic District Design Guidelines. That topic will be specific to infill construction in Franklin and the downtown area, specifically houses, commercial buildings, garages. We'll talk about how the guidelines read currently and any sort of suggestions that you may have for edits to those. So I look forward to that, and then we'll have a presentation prepared ahead of time about that I will send to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any non-agenda items that need to be put on the agenda for tonight? Okay, thank you. None. Are there any citizen comments on items not on the agenda? These are open for Franklin citizens to be heard on items not included on this agenda. And if anyone desires to speak on such, we shall make no decisions or consideration of action except to refer the matter to the planning director for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for a historic zoning consideration at a lower date. Are there any citizens' comments on items not on the agenda?
There are no citizens on the line, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Dennisfelder. All right, then our first item tonight is consideration of fences and walls at 150 Franklin Road, Gary Batson applicant. Our order tonight will be that Amanda Rose will make a presentation on the application, then the applicant will comment, and then there'll be citizen comments and the commission will then deliberate. So, Ms. Rose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the placement of fencing at 150 Franklin Road, which is BGA Lower School Campus, in coordination with some ongoing Franklin Road infrastructure improvements and sidewalk project. The school campus is the site of a historic house, the 1891 Cox House, and the proposed alterations are specific to the construction of a masonry wall with a steel fence placed on top of it at 6 feet in height with 7-foot masonry columns along the front property line with operable gates recessed from the property line to accommodate an easement. Additionally, the applicant's requesting installation of steel fencing at 6 feet in height along the perimeter of the athletic field, which is to the left of the the right of the historic house as viewed from Franklin Road. And then the installation of steel fencing of 6 feet in height along the northern property line to tie into the proposed front yard fencing and connect that to a previously approved wall. So as you all are aware, this project has been considered in a handful of parts. The commission has approved a number of alterations to the property, and this is the remaining request from the applicant. So there are a number of things shown on the application that have been considered already by the commission. So my analysis here is specific to the remaining items, the fences and with the walls. Since this has been discussed a couple of times before, I'll keep my comments brief. The zoning ordinance and the historic district design guidelines state that front yard fencing should be limited to 3 feet in height, and that with the exception of the athletic field areas, which can be 6 feet in height per zoning ordinance. Because of this, approval from the Historic Zoning Commission would be required for the fencing, and the Historic District Design Guidelines do not recommend any higher than 3 feet in height. The Board of Zoning Appeals, too, would have to consider approval of the request for issuance of a variance if approved by the Historic Zoning Commission this evening. As for materials, the proposed wall with fencing isn't entirely consistent with the guidelines because it does state that it's steel/aluminum construction. I would need a sample submitted to the planning office to determine if the proposed material is imitative enough of a cast iron as recommended by the guidelines in order to serve as an alternative material and meet the intent of the guidelines. The detailing has been simplified by removing the scroll detailing that was present underneath the pickets of the metal fencing. And with that, I do want to note that the applicant has provided a copy of a security consultant's assessment report for the property, and that was included within your application for consideration. So all that said, the commission is recommended to deny the proposed fencing and gates as it exceeds the height recommended by the guidelines. and a portion of the application exceeds the height recommended by the City of Franklin zoning ordinance. If issued a COA, a sample of the material would be required to make a determination if it's emulative of a cast iron material. And if issued a COA, all the fencing and walls independent of the athletic field would require consideration and approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, would the applicant wish to make comments on the application? And I think we have, is Chris Wood and Jim Cross with us?
Yes, myself, Chris, and Dwight are on the phone, and Jim's on the phone as well. So thank you for your time to relook at this. So we've made just very slight alterations per the past recommendations to kind of clean this mill up, as Amanda alluded to, just removing some of the detailing, simplifying it down. But the big more important aspect of the add to this particular submittal package was the security consultant's recommendations for this site and his, I guess, background to allude to his professional expertise.
Would you like to make any other comments about the security assessment report? We've all got a copy of it, but I just know if you wanted to make any.
Jim, do you want to make any comments about that?
It looks like we have Mr. Cross and Mr. Fiddler on the line with the application as well, correct?
Correct. Brink Fiddler's here.
Jim, you're on mute if you're trying to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Jim Cross.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Okay.
We got you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I could not get off mute for some reason. I don't necessarily have anything to add. I think Brink is on the call as well with Defense System. You can see his credentials and other educational facilities that he's worked with, and his recommendation. And as we've said all along, this is more for security reasons for us, not so much for aesthetics. And you can see from his report that a 6-foot fence is what the recommended height would be in his professional opinion. And I don't necessarily think Brink needs to make any comments. If you have any questions for him, however, he is on the line if you'd like to ask him any questions.
But he's welcome to make a comment if he would like to make a comment. We do have his extensive report, which is great. But Mr. Fiddler, if you'd like to make any other comments that are maybe something that's not in here in this report would be helpful.
No, sir. I'm just here to make myself available to you guys if you have any further questions. Thank you, though.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments that any people representing the applicant would like to make before we move on? Okay. Are there any citizens that wish to comment on the application?
There are no citizens on the line.
Thank you. Then we're ready for the commission to deliberate. And with that in mind, let's have a motion.
I have a motion. This is Lisa.
All right.
I move to approve the proposed fencing and gates. And the reason for that motion versus the staff recommended motion is based on the very in-depth security assessment report, particularly the conclusion that without the 6-foot fence, it would significantly expose the children to increased danger.
Thank you. Is there a second to Lisa's motion to approve?
I'll second that. This is Ken.
Okay, thank you, Ken. All right, discussion. Comments?
Mr. Chair, this is Brian.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
The only really question I have is what Ms. Rose brought forth about the material used for the fencing. Do we know if it's going to be steel or iron?
I'll ask the applicant that.
The proposed material, other than the brick, the proposed material is wrought iron.
Okay. Anything else, Brian?
That's my question. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add a couple sentiments. I've kind of come around to this taller fence. I was concerned because I'm mindful that even though this is sort of an exception to the guidelines because it's a school, we don't have a lot of schools in the historic zone. I was just very concerned about having this level of fence, but or this height of fence. But thanks to the applicant working with us and getting the design down to a more simple design, I'm more comfortable with it. Also knowing that in the future, we're probably going to have people come around and ask for similar fencing for various reasons, whether it's institutional or otherwise. And so I feel like we've moved in the right direction with this one, and I'm going to support it. Whereas before I wasn't feeling very strongly about it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
This is Susan.
Okay, Susan.
I would have to echo Kelly's comments. I have been struggling with this one. Quite frankly, I've driven by the school many times. I've given it a lot of thought. I've driven around Franklin to see what other kind of fences are out there. And it will have a very strong presence. I don't really know how else to say that, because when I look at other fences, a 6-foot fence makes a difference from a 5-foot fence even. But I think I'm coming around to supporting it. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment if the commissioners are finished. I do want to note that Mr. Cross noted that it would be a wrought iron fence. The application does say steel/aluminum. So because the motion is to approve, I would recommend if there is a material preference by the commissioners that either the motion is clarified or amended to ensure that it meets the intent of the commission.
Okay. Brian, since you raised the question. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the motion that the material of the fence should be iron and brick, but iron for the portion.
Is that clear enough for you, Amanda? Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Susan. Any comments on that? We'll vote on the motion and the amendment. All right. Then this will be on the amendment. So please respond when I call your name. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Nick Mann. Nick's not here. Lisa Marquardt.
Aye.
Ken Scalf.
Aye.
Kathy Worthington.
Aye.
And Jim Roberts. Aye. Okay, now we're back to the motion, a motion to approve the fencing and gates as amended. Are there any more comments? All right, then we're ready to vote. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
Aye.
Ken Scalf.
Aye. Kathy
Worthington.
Aye.
And Jim Roberts. Aye. So BGA and applicants, we thank you very much for working with us. And this is, I think, is going to be a great overall project once it is all completed.
Thank you on behalf of BGA. Thank everyone for working with us. We appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to item number 2. Consideration of accessory structure demolition at 211 2nd Avenue South. Amanda McCrary, applicant. Ms. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bear with me as I share the screen. The application. Go ahead and open the right one. Yes, the applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of an accessory structure at 209 2nd Avenue South. You can see both the principal structure on the property as well as the accessory structure here on the screen. It is a circa 1960 concrete block garage with a gable roof, weatherboard siding in that gable field there, and some side hinge wood panel double doors. The bays are unequal in size. And it's considered a contributing structure to the Franklin Historic District because it possesses a period of significance as of its latest update from circa 1805 to 1967. This applicant attended the Design Review Committee meeting in March. I wanted to say February this month. March just flew by. Anyway, the applicant attended the Design Review Committee meeting to discuss the proposal in further detail as the application was deferred by the Historic Zoning Commission during its March meeting to allow for additional information to be submitted by the applicant. The guidelines recommend against the demolition of historic structures if the structure maintains architectural or historical integrity and it is structurally sound. The applicant has submitted a proposal to address the lack of architectural or historical integrity as well as structural instability issues. The applicant maintains that the structure has been altered substantively since its construction. For example, the replacement of the original doors, as well as the construction of a lean-to addition at the rear of the building, which you can see it's having trouble loading. Just a moment. I may have to open it back up again. It's been open for a while on my screen. It's not loading anymore. But the application also includes a narrative description with to substantiate the request at the DRC's recommendation that provides more information about the conditions demonstrated in the photographs, including settlement, cracking at locations of vegetation, cracking within both mortar joints and blocks, undersized and sagging joist inside the building, foundation concerns, and there is a tree growing at the location of the addition at the rear. The applicant states that she was not able to provide estimates for rehabilitation versus demolition because it is her opinion that there is nothing to rehabilitate because there's no structural integrity to rehabilitate. The applicant has also included information on future action on site, which entails the construction of a slightly larger frame building at grade with a lean-to addition on the right side. It would be proposed to be placed in a similar location at the end of the driveway, but move slightly to accommodate a modern side yard setback because this particular building is encroaching into the neighbor's property as it currently sits. So with that, based on the information provided by the applicant, it's recommended that the commission approve with conditions the proposed demolition of the accessory structure with the condition that the accessory structure be satisfactorily documented through photographs inside and out prior to demolition taking place. And that approval is limited specifically to demolition only. Any future action on site involving construction is not approved with the demolition at this time and will require issuance of a certificate of appropriateness and a building permit. Thank you.
All right. Would the applicant like to comment on this application?
Hey guys, so from the last time we spoke, we did add the project narrative into our document to lay out some of the things we discussed last time, such as the structural instability, the lean-to portions of it, the construction of the facility. And like Amanda said, I did want to comment again that we have detailed the structural issues of it in the report. We did not include a cost for rehabilitation because it's just a difficult situation for us and to have a cost for rehabilitating when we're not sure what we're rehabilitating due to a structural situation, if that makes sense. Again, we are on the side property line of the adjacent neighbor to the left. I don't know how much, if you want me, Mr. Chair, to go in through the full detail again, I can, or we can just leave it as we've noted it.
I think everybody's got a good idea on this based on previous conversations, and I think the questions you can answer at that time.
That works for me.
Okay, thanks. Are there any citizens that wish to comment on this application? Then, commissioners, we need a motion.
I move to approve with conditions.
Thank you, Ken. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Thanks, Brian. All right, discussion, questions, comments.
So
just
So Kelly.
This will be my regular thing today, where I thank the applicant for going through this process with us, because when it was first, approached about this, we're always hesitant when it comes to demolition, because this is such a important part of our fabric. But with the information that Amanda has provided over the process over the past month, I feel comfortable with demolition.
All right, thank you. Is there any other comments?
Only that when it comes to demolition, as a commission, ordinarily, I think we've been requiring an expert opinion by a structural engineer, which I don't see here. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Okay, any other comments? All right, we're ready to vote. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
No.
Ken Scalf.
Aye.
Kathy Worthington.
Aye.
And Jim Roberts. Aye. Okay, Amanda, thank you very much. Amanda McCreary.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we're ready for item 3, consideration of accessory structure alterations, roof line, fenestration, dormer construction, and additions at 119 Lewisburg Avenue. Ms. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will share screen. I think it should work this time. Well, actually, I'm not sure if I got the right one open. Might have accidentally closed it. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to an existing outbuilding at the property, which is 119 Lewisburg Avenue. I am sharing screen right now, just so you can see the photographs of the property. The proposed alterations are to the structure in 2 different parts. You see in this bottom middle photograph, you can see the 2 parts of the structure pretty clearly. You have an older 1-story portion. It is not clear when it was constructed, but it does date to post 1950 because of the historic maps that we have that were referenced to determine if it was present on the site at that time. It's the latest map we have for that area is 1950. So we do know this is post 1950, but it is clear that the portion that sticks up above that roof line at the rear of the accessory structure is a later addition, and it's not as old as the original portion. So the alterations proposed would be the construction of 2 wing additions onto this front garage portion in order to allow for the use of the garage for car storage. So the applicant's proposing to add wings on either side of the garage bays about 2 feet wide in order to just allow for room to be able to open doors inside the garage and allow people to just park their cars in there. The remaining alterations are specific to the rear portion of the structure, the part that sticks up above the roof line. Those alterations include the alteration of that roof line to include a cross gable form. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the elevation set here so you can better see that. So you have the existing garage form here. You see the form that sticks up above. So the applicant's proposing to add a cross gable roof line to the portion above in order to get additional space in the upper floor. The applicant's proposing to place dormers behind that cross gable form. So you can see the left side here, there's a gable, cross gable, and then the dormer behind. And then as I skip ahead to the right elevation, you can see the dormer behind as well. The applicant is also requesting to place additional windows at the rear elevation. So you can see the existing here and then the rear with a set of double windows below and a set of double windows above. So it increases the glazing. The applicant is also requesting a slight relocation of a door that's on the left facade, just in order to accommodate some interior arrangement. And then the replacement of 2 windows on the front facade. These are existing windows. As you can see here, they just would like to replace those. Then the construction of a balcony on the left elevation off the proposed dormer, which you can see here, and you can see from a dead-on view here. The applicant did appear before the design review committee to discuss the proposal or a different version of this proposal once in December and then once again in February. So the subject accessory structure is not contemporary to the original principal structure on the property. I say original principal structure because the principal structure has largely been rebuilt, but it's not contemporary to what was original to the property when it was constructed based on Sanborn map research that was conducted. While the definitive dates of construction are not known, as I noted, the front portion of the accessory is older than the rear part of the accessory that sticks up above. It's likely that the garage portion of the structure gained historic significance in its own right based on some characteristics of that structure. Even if it was built in the 60s, it's gained 50 years in age or more, and it could be historic by federal standards. It has characters similar to the original principal structure on the property and characteristics typical of most historic accessory equivalents in the district. In the case of the proposed alterations to the rear portion, however, which isn't historic, the alterations are reviewed in light of the historic district design guidelines, specifically in relation to how that proposed alteration would impact the character of the district and then the surrounding buildings. So the wing additions, we'll go ahead and talk about. You can see them slightly here and here. I'll go back to the site plan and you can see them here and here. It's about 34 square feet cumulatively, 2 feet on each side, and they are recessed 3 feet from the front wall of that structure. The guidelines recommend that enclosed additions be placed on rear or obscured elevations and that they be designed to be clearly identifiable and not compromise the physical integrity of the structure. At staff's recommendation, the applicant has designed these wings to rest under the existing eave line of the garage. So it does not tie into this roof line. It is clear that is an addition, which lessens the alteration to the potential historic structure and also makes it clear that it is an addition. They are recessed from the front facade in order to read as addition forms, but they'll be minimally visible from views from the street. As you can see from the photographs, the garage sits significantly back from the street, and it, as designed, it would be very difficult to view those side wing additions in any pronounced way. As for the roof line alterations to the rear part of the accessory structure, the applicant is proposing to add that cross gable form. As a non-historic portion of the building, alteration of the roof line may be appropriate. The guidelines state that new construction should be compatible in scale and proportions with adjacent structures and consistent with the context of the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed roof form is similar to the roof form on the property next door. The proposed roof form is similar to that in that it is used to minimize the scale and mass of the dormers that are located or proposed to be located behind it. It's situated about 20 feet from the front facade. So I'm going to remind you again, here's that original portion. And these start about 20 feet back on the other side as well. You actually see the neighboring property owner's garage right here, and then the subject property garage right here. So they've shown that here just to show how it lines up together, and that is similar cross gable form with a dormer behind. The cross gables are proposed to be recessed about a foot from the side facades. And so as you can see, especially on the rendering above, you can see that it doesn't sit on the wall, it is recessed off the wall about a foot. While the proposal creates additional roof massing, and that is certainly true, it appears that the roof form as designed will recede visually and therefore offer minimal impacts from the street view. The applicant is also proposing to construct these shed dormers, and the guidelines state that dormers should relate to the style and proportion of windows on the principal structure and be set back a minimum of 2 feet from the exterior wall. The applicant has designed these dormers to be recessed 3 feet and 6 inches from the side facades, and then again, another foot from the rear facade. So there's a foot distance here, and there's 3.5 feet distance from this front wall to where these dormers rest. The dormers are proposed to feature cementitious siding of a 4.5-inch exposure to match that on the side of the principal structure. As you may recall, there is a dormer that was approved for an addition previously to this structure that has similar siding characteristics. The dormers will not be visible from the street due to that cross-gabled form that is being proposed. The additional windows on the rear is shown here. The guidelines recommend against the placement of new window openings onto primary or readily visible secondary elevations, so that new windows have historic profile and dimensions. Windows for infill structures should relate to the architectural style of the structure. So the proposed windows are similar in the rhythm and spacing and placement of those found on historic equivalents. And the applicant did introduce smaller windows on the rear facade at the staff's request in order to meet some transitional features requirements of the zoning ordinance as related to privacy. The relocation of the pedestrian door on the left elevation is appropriate as it is slight and offers no visibility from the street. It is on a portion of the building that is not historic. The front facade window replacement is an in-kind replacement for those 2 windows. Specifications have not been provided, however, so it may be appropriate due to it not being a historic portion of the structure if the windows have historic profile and dimensions similar to the remainder of the building. For the balcony construction, as you can see here on the bottom left, the applicant's proposing to construct that small balcony off that left facade dormer. The guidelines recommend that porches and decks be added to rear or secondary elevations where are not readily visible from the street. While balconies are not typical to historic equivalents for accessory structures, the proposed alteration is largely hidden by that proposed roof form, and visibility is also lessened by the location of the balcony in relation to the principal structure. And what I mean by that is that the principal structure does step out and block a portion of the view of the garage. And so it's very unlikely that you will see a lot of that, if any, of the balcony from the street view. I can't guarantee that you won't see it at all, but it's likely that it will not be visible due to its placement. So with that, it is recommended that the commission approve with conditions the proposed alterations to the accessory structure. The conditions being that the new windows have historic profile and dimension and consist of either wood or composite material emulative of wood, that the specifications be submitted to staff and approved prior to issuance of a building permit, and that the application meet all the requirements of the BNS department prior to issuance of said permit, and any proposed changes to the approved plan be submitted to staff for consideration of approval or submitted to the Historic Zoning Commission for approval if determined to require Historic Zoning Commission approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. And I don't believe Kevin Coffey is with us. Is that correct? So
correct. We do have
so the
owners here. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sims, Mr. Walters.
Yes, Mr. Walters, I just want to thank Amanda for her summary and Nothing further to add, as I hope we've incorporated, based on the 2 other meetings we've had with you, the recommendations that you've suggested.
Okay, thank you. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application?
No callers on the line.
Thank you. Then we're ready for the commission to deliberate. Is there a motion so that we get started?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with conditions the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed accessory structure alterations.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair, it's Ken.
Thanks, Ken. All right, comments?
Mr. Chair, this is Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
But the only comment I'd like to make is just to say that I think it's very clever the way the wings take a garage that would be that's original, difficult to use, and turn it into something functional. And I just want to congratulate the applicant on that solution.
Thank you. Is there somebody else?
Mr. Chair, this is Susan. The part of the application I'm not really in favor of is the balcony, and I'd love some input from the other commissioners, but I think that Kevin's done a good job of bringing the alterations where they're less obtrusive, I guess. And but the balcony, I'm still a little concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? My only comment is I can't support this application because of the added mass to this property. I am sensitive to the addition to the garage entrance, which I think makes perfect sense. But as far as the wing additions, I'm not in favor of the dormer additions. I'm not in favor of that. So, any other comments? All right, we're ready to vote. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Did you say, Susan, did you say aye?
Aye, yes.
All right. Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
Aye.
Ken Scalf.
Aye.
Kathy Worthington.
Aye.
Jim Roberts, no. Okay, the motion passes 6-1. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is consideration of principal structure addition at 304 Public Square. Ms. Rose.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a 2-story addition to the rear of the building at 304 Public Square. I am realizing now that if I have PDFs open for about an hour before the meeting to prep, that they do not save. So I need to open that back up just a moment.
Trying to be so prepared.
I know.
Bit you.
It's not, it doesn't pay to be prepared, does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'm sharing right now. I just had too many PDFs open. It just couldn't save all the images. So the property is 304 Public Square. It is the building that is probably the oldest building on the Public Square, and it is where Twine Graphics is located, if that helps to orientate everyone. You can see from the screen that there is a recessed area behind the building between the adjacent structures, and that is the area in which the applicant would propose the addition. You can also see on the upper left here, this is the existing main level and the proposed addition at the rear. You can see that a little better on this photograph. You see the proposed addition at the rear with the proposed upper level addition there. I'm sorry, main level with upper level, excuse me. So it does cantilever a bit. The applicant did appear before the Design Review Committee to discuss the proposal on March 15th. The proposal consists of that 517 square foot addition with the 255 addition for the other level to be attached to the rear of the building. The addition is proposed to align roughly with the depth of that adjacent building, as you saw in the photograph momentarily ago. The visible portions consist of brick, and the existing roof line will not be impacted. The addition hosts a sloped roof with a shed metal balcony. I'm going to go ahead and skip to this rendering here because I do think it's very helpful to demonstrate that. The guidelines recommend that ground additions for commercial buildings be placed at rear elevations designed simply, consist of frame or brick construction, and be identifiable and distinguished from the original structure. The guidelines also recommend that sections of historic walls not be removed to allow for an addition. So in response to the recommendations of the Design Review Committee and staff, the applicant revised the conceptual proposal as presented in March to address the concerns related to the maintenance of the historic wall. And what I mean by that is specifically the existence of this existing rear facade and how that would be treated in order to accommodate an addition. So in talking with the applicant and reviewing these floor plans, the interior floor plan demonstrates the existing rear window openings will be utilized as doors, and that as so that no additional punctures or removal of the existing historic wall will be required. Further, the historic chimney will remain, and the existing facade windows will be reused. So the windows that you see here will be removed from the building and then placed on the new rear, which is very nice. This design will allow for the removal of the addition in the future without negative consequence to the historic structure, which is recommended strongly by the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, which are the standards by which many of our guidelines are based. The applicant also simplified the overall design so it is more in keeping with the materials and detailing of the existing building and the surrounding commercial buildings. For example, the application, as discussed informally at Design Review Committee, had shiplap siding, had more features indicative of a residential form as opposed to a more commercial form in an urban district. So the applicant, while there are some, details on the building, has simplified it greatly in order to be more conducive to the context of the neighborhood, but also has introduced some details that are more specific to the building itself. Because if you go back and look at the photograph of the front of the building, you can see there is a lot of detailing in the cornice, and the building is unique in a lot of ways because it does have the chimney and it is one of the oldest buildings in the area and perhaps the oldest on Public Square. So that said, it is recommended that the Historic Zoning Commission approve with conditions I see I have an error here on the staff report. Approve with conditions the proposed addition with the following. In keeping with the guidelines, the balcony material must be wood. The material specifications must be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a building permit, and that the application must meet all additional requirements of the Building and Neighborhood Services Department prior to issuance of the building permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant like to comment on the application?
Hello, my name is Brett LeJean. I'm with Scott Wilson Architect. I think Amanda did a fine job in her summary of the proposals that were proposed for the owners. I just wanted to reiterate what she had said, that ultimately the goal is to make sure that the addition is as sensitive to the existing building as possible in the event that in the future another owner wants to take it out and restore the original building. The back wall, chimney, and existing gable metal roof will all remain intact, and the brick on the existing back of the building will all remain as well. It'll just be sealed and treated so that it can be part of the interior of the new addition. I think that's all that I wanted to reiterate. So we're here to answer any questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on the application?
No callers on the line.
Thank you. All right, Commission, we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Ken.
I make a motion to approve with the conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second to Ken's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, comments, questions?
Mr. Chair,
I
this
just
is
want to say
Brian.
I think that the changes are very nice aesthetically, and the details are appropriate to the building, and I want to congratulate you.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, and I'll echo that from Ms. Besser as well. I would just like to make sure we do have it in the record. As Ms. Rose has stated, it is the oldest building on the square, and that in 205 years, to our knowledge, it's never been altered, which is remarkable. And while I personally lament breaking this long tradition, I say if we must, then we do it with respect and sensitivity. And what the applicant has submitted to us is much, much improved from what we saw in the DRC. And I do have a few questions.
You got the floor.
So number one is I'd like to hear more about how the brick color will be matched to the color of the existing building. And if the architect has any idea what type brick will be used as far as the manufacturer.
Manufacturer, we have not gotten to the point of selecting a manufactured brick. We'll probably use some sort of tumbled brick that mimics the brick that's seen on many of the older buildings, at least the back facades. Generally, these buildings at the rear, they use the cheapest brick they could find and spend all the money on the front elevations. So while we're not going to put the cheapest brick we can find on it, we would like to mimic the look of some kind of a tumbled brick or brick that has sort of a bit of a rougher look to it. So that it fits in with the existing building as it is now and the adjacent buildings as well. Color will be as complementary to the existing building as possible as we can possibly get. So that's really all I can say at this point about that.
Thank you. So my next question would have to do with the metal roof that's going to be added to the addition. Did you have an idea of color?
Well, the existing roof, from what I can tell from aerial photographs and photographs standing as far back as I can to see it, it looks like it's a flat steel metal color, not a specific color of any kind that I could tell. It just looks like it's a steel, kind of a light gray steel color. So we would try to use the same color, and it almost looks like the roof is a flat seam. It doesn't have a huge standing seam. It's a smaller seam profile. So we're going to try to match the color and the seam profile as best we can, as well as the seam spacing. So it looks like we had extra material left over and we just added it to that new overhang.
That sounds good, because I don't think the roof should actually scream at you from the back. The next thing on your brackets, do you envision those as wood or stone?
I would imagine that they would be wood. I looked at a lot of buildings along Main Street, up and down both sides, and found several buildings had corbels or eaves or soffit details with similar profiles as the profile you see here. So I'm imagining it would be a wood bracket that would be painted to match the rest of the wood balcony, the columns and the fence and the gate. I mean the railing as well. So it would all be painted to match. But I envision that being a wood bracket.
My final question relates to the balcony. So I know you've chosen a style of a closed-in balcony with panels. Did you consider an open balcony with balusters?
We did. I think the owner felt more comfortable going with something that was more enclosed for security, for privacy reasons. So we went with something that was more closed, and we decided if we were going to do that, then we would try to match, at least in detail, some panels, raised applied trim that at least matched what the existing front elevation has above the windows and door areas. Again, it's primarily just more privacy and security for when the owner is away and not at the space.
My primary thought and concern about the closed part of the balcony is that it's not really in characteristic historic style to the back of a building such as this one. And I would be more inclined to see more of a federal style baluster with a simple railing, and maybe even a square type baluster to fill in between the columns.
And if the owners are open to a proposal like that, I could certainly work with the owners and get their thoughts and opinions on something like that.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I'd just like to throw this out to the commission to amend the motion to specify that the rear balcony be open in design rather than the proposed closed panels, and that the balusters be of a more simple federal style as well as the railings. And that an example of this baluster and railing would be submitted to the HPO administrator for approval.
Okay, say that one more time. The rear balcony open in design.
And that the balusters would be of a simple square federal style and simple railings. And that the example of the baluster and railings would be submitted to the HPO administrator for approval. And if you need me to repeat any portion of that, I'll be glad to.
Well, let me repeat what I wrote down, and then you tell me if this needs to be adjusted. That the rear balcony be open in design, and that the balusters and railings be simple, square, federal style, and the design submitted to the HPO, Historic Zoning Commission Planning Director. How about that?
So I would say that the balusters would be in that simple federal design, and also the railings, because they're going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. I think I said that. I said balusters and railings.
All right, and that a sample of those would be submitted to the HPO administrator for approval.
Is that good with you, Ms. Rose? All right, she's good with that. Is there a second?
I'll
Brian's
second
amendment?
that. This is Susan. I'll second that.
Thank you, Susan. All right, is there any questions from other commissioners before we vote on the amendment?
This is Ken. I just wanted to say, I think this is such a better solution than what we saw previously. The last one seemed like it mimicked some of the worst in the alley in materials, and this is much improved. I will not vote for the amendment because I understand for the usability of this, for that to be an open railing and it's off an alley, that it needs to be closed. So that's just my opinion.
Thanks, Ken. I would concur with that. I think this design is much improved. I understand the closed nature of this for someone that is residing in that upper level residence. So I'd be voting against the amendment. Are there other discussion?
I have a few observations to make. First of all, I think Mr. Laster echoes concerns that I have about that balcony being inconsistent with any other building back there. And in addition to that, that even though the design has been simplified and it is improved, I think it has a ways to go, which is, I think, what Mr. Laster was referring to, that the design needs to be simplified even more so. And for that reason, and also because the chimney portion, which is part of the history of the building, will not be visible for the enjoyment of people that want to see and appreciate Franklin's historic buildings. It seems counterintuitive that this chimney and that entire wall will be hidden. And for those reasons, I'll be voting against the motion.
All right, now we're speaking to the amendment right now.
And regarding the amendment, I will not support the, well, I guess it's, I guess it's choosing between two things. I would choose to support the amendment. I would prefer that the entire project be deferred to design review. But in the alternative, I'll be voting for the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments relative to the amendment that's on the table? All right, we're going to vote on the amendment again, or first of all. So Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Okay. Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
Aye.
Ken Scalf.
Nay.
Kathy Worthington.
Nay.
Jim Roberts. No. So I've got 4-3. Amanda. So the amendment passes. Then we're back to the main motion to approve as amended.
Mr.
Any
Chair.
additional comments?
Mr. Chair, I have another amendment.
Okay.
And I'd like to amend the motion that a sample of the brick to be used on the addition be submitted to the HPO administrator for approval.
Got it. Or is there a second to Brian's amendment to the sample of the brick being submitted to the HPO administrator for approval? Is there a second?
Second.
Lisa, thank you. Any discussion on that? Then let's vote on that. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
Aye.
Ken Scalf.
Aye.
Kathy Worthington. Kathy. All right. Jim Roberts, aye. All right, we're back to the main motion then as amended 2 times. That approved, that was unanimous. Kathy did not vote on that, but we got 6 that did, 6-0. We're back to the main motion as amended twice. Any additional comments?
I voted aye.
Okay, thank you. Then it's 7-0. All right, we're back to the main motion as amended twice. Then please, any other comments? Okay, we're ready to vote. Kelly Baker.
Aye.
Susan Besser.
Aye.
Brian Laster.
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt.
No.
Ken Scalf.
Aye.
Kathy Worthington.
Aye.
Jim Roberts. No. Okay, that passed then 5-2. Main motion as amended. Are we all clear on that, Amanda? Are you clear?
Yes,
All right.
I will work with the
Brent.
applicant to
Yep.
determine your next steps moving forward. Thank you, Brent.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs.
Thanks,
Sullivan.
Brent.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, yes, Susan.
Did the amendment regarding the enclosed balcony, did that pass or fail?
Yes.
I wasn't clear on that.
It
It
passed.
did pass? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It passed specifically, get to my notes, 1, 2, 3, 4-3.
Thank you.
All right, consideration of principal structure enclosed porch alterations at 118 Lewisburg Avenue. Diane LeBlanc, applicant. Ms. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of an existing screen porch or existing enclosed porch screening material with windows at 118 Lewisburg Avenue. I'm going to share screen. This is not to be confused with 119 Lewisburg Avenue, which we talked about previously. This is immediately across the street,
Across the
though.
street.
So I'm going to rotate. Apologize. It's not wanting to work. Just a moment. So this timed out too. Okay. I will no longer be prepared early, guys. There it goes. Okay, I apologize for that. I'm going to share screen again. Okay, so what you should see on the screen is a front elevation of the building. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the property at 118 Lewisburg Avenue. I can pull up a photograph of the full front elevation if needed. I believe I have one in your staff report, however, to help you clarify how that looks. But you can see it's a Craftsman building, and the design has what appears to be two wings on either side of that main form. On the existing left, quote unquote, wing, there are two windows and then a door, and it's all sided in. On the right side, there's screening, and that existing photograph is really helpful in showing that. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see that a little better. So that's what it looks like currently. It's got a minimal number of vertical and horizontal wood framing members holding up a screen material. The application is requesting that the screening material be removed and that it be replaced with Pella windows, which you can see here, with a light pattern that is similar to what you see on the other side of the building, which is a 9/1, which is very typical of a Craftsman home. I can't see much, all the Zoom information. Sorry about that. Okay, so there that is. Porch enclosure on historic structures is generally only recommended for porches on side or rear elevations, but because the subject porch is already screened, alteration may be appropriate. The guidelines recommend that one use screen or glass panels with a minimum number of vertical and horizontal framing members needed to support the glass or screening if enclosure is desired. The use of windows of the same Craftsman style light pattern may be appropriate, however, as the windows are full length and the trim will remain in place to match the height of the window headers on the opposite wing of the structure you see here. Further, the area will continue to read as a porch due to the height and rhythm of the windows. So it will not appear to be fully enclosed. It will appear to read, in my opinion, as a portion of the building that has been enclosed over time. You can see from the side elevation, this is the porch as it's currently configured. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it wrong. This is the front porch, and this is how it would look on the side elevation as proposed. The current configuration is on the screen right here. So if you have any questions about the information that is being projected on the screen, please let me know. Window specifications have not been provided, so with the proposal, it is recommended that the commission approve with conditions. The conditions being that the new windows have historic profile and dimension, and consist of either wood or a composite material emulative of wood, and that those specifications be submitted to the preservation planner or the Historic Zoning Commission prior to issuance of a building permit. And further, that the application meet all additional requirements of the BNS department prior to issuance of a building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Would the applicant like to comment on the application? And
No comment. Appreciate Amanda and her work. And the purpose, I'll just say that with the traffic that has been on Lewisburg now, it has just not been able to be used as a current screen porch. So that's the reason for the request. Thank you.
thank you. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on the application?
No callers on the line.
Thank you. All right, Commission, we need a motion to start discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with conditions a certificate of appropriateness for the alterations to enclose the porch.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
it,
This
Mr.
is
Chair.
Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, questions or discussion?
This is Susan. I would just like to say that I think this is an excellent idea and aesthetically, and it will make for a more livable space. So I think it's a great application.
Thanks. Other comments? Okay, hearing none, then are we ready to vote? So please respond when I call your name. Kelly Baker,
Aye.
Susan Besser,
Aye.
Brian Laster,
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt,
Aye.
Ken Scalf,
Aye.
Kathy Worthington,
Aye.
and Jim Roberts. Aye. Thank you very much. Thanks, Diane. We look forward to seeing it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is our last item. Can I get a motion to adjourn after I wish Kelly Baker only the best as she makes this long journey to Hawaii? And best of lucks in your marriage.
Yeah, indeed, Kelly. We really will miss you big time.
Don't be a stranger.
Kelly. I'll send you some butternut squash soup.
Sounds good. Well, I won't be gone terribly long, and I will keep my house, so I'll still be fully invested in the Franklin historic districts.
Well, good.
And Kelly, you will be missed, and sorry we didn't make this into a 3-hour meeting. I'm actually shocked that it's less than an hour and a half.
I know it. I am
You made
too.
the motion on the last item.
That's right.
Well, no, this is the last item, and
It's the last
I move to adjourn.
Great. All right.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. All right, Kelly Baker,
Aye.
Susan Besser,
Aye.
Brian Laster,
Aye.
Lisa Marquardt,
Aye.
Ken Scalf,
Aye.
Kathy Worthington,
Aye.
Jim Roberts. Aye. Thanks to you all.